Hello, everyone. Good morning, dear student. Welcome to welcome to your class in African civilization. I think that you can hear me. So let me share again the file. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? You can answer. Okay, I am sending a text on YouTube. You can answer if you can you can hear me. Just say yes if you can hear me. Okay, just some technical issues. But don't worry about that. Okay, welcome, dear student. I think that it is I think that it's okay. Okay, welcome to your class on African civilization. The course title is Ancient Egypt. And for this lesson, we have drawn some objectives. Yes, first of all, okay, the general objectives of the lesson, meaning that the whole lesson, the 3 chapters, as general objectives for this class or for this course, because the course is different, is a little bit different from a class. We said this course are to impart knowledge about ancient Egypt and Nubian civilizations that influenced other civilizations of the world in the past in science, anthropology, astrology, geography, religions, and literature through myths and history as a whole. At the end of this course, so there are some targeted objectives, meaning that at the end of this course, students will be able to, right, or they should be able to, first of all, to deal with more complex topic by linking the 2 civilizations, meaning that the civilization of ancient Egypt and Nubian civilization. By linking the 2 that establish the way of life of ancient Egypt and Nubia, meaning that you will be able to talk about their life, you'll be able to talk about their beliefs, right, and so forth. As well as you will be, okay, you will introduce it to the cultural, the social, political, and economic relations. At the end, or so far, you will be able to talk about the myth and different periods in ancient Egypt and Kush. Remember that the Kushite region is, okay, have a lot of similarities with the ancient Egypt. All right, and you'll be able to relate, meaning that the regions with the ideology, relating the regions with their ideology. As well, you will be able to trace chronologically, meaning that there are different dates, meaning that from the starting point or the outset until, okay, the end, you will be able to chronologically talk about the evolution and the end of these ancient kingdoms of the sub-Saharan Africa. Egypt is located in sub-Saharan Africa, as well as the region of Kush, which is the currently known as Sudan. Apart this, there are some specific competencies that you need to know before we start, okay, the lesson. Talking about the specific competence, at the end of the class, you, the will be able, because the specific competence is, okay, in relationship to the lesson itself, not the word clause, but the sequence or the chapter. There are general objectives for the word lesson, and this is a specific. These are specific objective, meaning that the specific competencies that you may have at the end of this class. You'll be able to think more broadly about the historical point or social concept, building upon knowledge about early Egyptian civilization and method previously seen, especially by linking past and present in a meaningful way. Because the lesson is likely likely similar is a how can I say these are some historical events, right? Okay, you will be able to link past and present together, as well as you will be open to more complex topic to improve your oral and written skills in a well-structured way. So these are the different objectives, sorry, of our course on African civilization. All right, the course is about Egypt. So when we hear the name Egypt, many students, okay, may give the different point of view about what is Egypt, or how they know Egypt, right? Other may talk about football. Other students may talk about, okay, the civilization, meaning that, okay, the pyramids and so on. You have different opinion around, okay, Egyptian, right? Egyptian country or Egyptian civilization. All right, Egypt is a African country, because the lesson is about African civilization. It is said that Egypt is located, meaning that the geographical area, Egypt is located in North Africa. So Africa, for example, Senegal is in the south, in the west, sorry, the Senegalese country is in the west, close to the Atlantic Ocean, but Egypt is located in North Africa on the Mediterranean Sea. And Egypt is home to the oldest civilization on the earth. Egypt have to be counted among the oldest civilization in the world. Okay, the origins, dealing with the origin of the Egyptian names, there are different calling of Egyptian names. First of all, we have a name given by the Greek, which is Egyptos. The Greek called the Egyptian country Egyptos, which is a Greek name. Okay, and the ancient Egyptian themselves, they call it Ta, meaning that to name the spirit of Ta. You know that Egyptian people, they were, okay, worshiping a lot of gods, right? They were worshiping a lot of gods. They have a lot of divinities. Originally, the name of Egypt, okay, the name of Egypt, or the capital or the city of it is named after the city of Memphis, because Memphis was the first capital of Egypt in the ancient times. Egypt as a famous country, meaning that a country known by, okay, by the whole world, right? Known by, I can say, everybody. Egypt is famous under with its diversity of divinities. They were polytheistic people, so they They had a lot of gods. We are talking about around 2,000 gods. Gods in plural, but gods with not a capital letter, but gods, right? Okay. And Egypt was a trade center. That's the reason why it was too attractive. A trade center that was attractive. And this was attested by peoples such as Greek, that used to come, how can I say, used to deal with Egyptian people, right? In terms of trade, exchange, and so on. As for the ancient Egyptian themselves, the country was simply known as Kemet. Kemet, the land of black people. Kemet, which means the land of black people, right? So we can guess the essence of this famous scholar, Sheikh Diop, who defended that Egyptian people, the ancient Egyptian people were black people. Kemet, the land of black people. This is the meaning for the word, okay, Kemet. And it has also another meaning in the Bible, or in the holy writing in the Bible, even in the Quran. The Kemet, from the names of the sons of Noah, right, in the holy Bible. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, and Japheth. Kemet. So Kemet, the coming of this word, the origin, of this word is, okay, related to the history of Noah in the Holy Bible, or in the Holy Quran. So Kemet means the black land. The black land, the word land here is important, because when we talk about land, we think about agricultural activities, we think about, okay, settlement, we think about, okay, kettles, having large kettles. So the land is very, very important for human okay, life. The soil of Egypt was dark and rich, and there were the Nile River. The Nile River, there was along the Nile River where the first began. Why along the is useful? They were, okay, the river is useful. They could take the river to go, okay, to reach the other countries. They were using it for agricultural activities. It was as a waterway that can link 2 cities or 2 different areas. So the river Nile, okay, is very important, or was very important in the eyes of Egyptian people. Okay, as the lesson is very long, so I will be shortening some details, right? So I will just focus on the key issues, or the main or the important okay aspect to explain, right? But as this land was so attractive, other people were interested on Egypt, because Egypt had a rich soil. Egypt was so attractive. They could, okay, exchange different things, golds, cereals, so and so on. That's the reason why the trade was developed in this site. Egypt thrived for 1,000 years, meaning that from 8,000 BCE. When you see BCE, copy that. It is before Christ era, BCE, before Christ era. From century 8,000 before Christ era to 13 before Christ era. It was an independent nation, meaning that a nation that does not depend on the other nation. But it was the contrary. The other nation was depending on Egypt. They had a famous culture. And they made great cultural advances in every area of human knowledge, in science, in technology, in medicine, in everything. Ancient people were excelling, right? So they had great men. They had scientists or scientific. They had hand workers. They had they had different people that were skilled, right, in different domains. From art to science and technology and religion, because religion played a central role in the lives of Egyptian people. Apart this, we can mention the great monuments. For example, what are these monuments? What is the importance of these monuments? Great monuments such as different architectures that you can still find in Egyptian country, right? Monuments such as monuments such as the graves, the pyramids, which were graves that dated back to the early dynastic period of Egypt. And people still celebrating this monument, because when you go to Egypt, when you go to the site of Giza, so you can find different pyramids that date back to the first dynasty. For example, or for instance, the pyramids of Khufu, Kafar, and Minkori, that are the three great pyramids of the ancient time. It shows the depth of the grandeur of the Egyptian culture, meaning that imagine pyramids that date back 1,000 years, and these pyramids still exist in Egypt. So this is a work of great minds. And this Egyptian culture or cultures influenced so many ancient civilizations. It influenced so many ancient civilizations. Among them, we can cite the Greek civilization and the Roman civilization. They have likely the same gods. They have likely the same way of life, with a little difference. But Egyptian civilization influences other civilizations of the world. So another thing can be mentioned or can be cited in Egyptian culture as far as its popularity is concerned. When we emphasize the grandeur, meaning that the greatness of human experience through the construction of great monuments, tombs, temples, and artwork, these monuments or these architectures celebrate life and stand as reminder. So they make us remind They make us remember or remind, how can I say, the great civilization that existed many years before. Even other people was not, okay, other scientists are not aware of, okay, the existence of this pyramid, or if I can say, um, they have a lot of, okay, um, different arguments about the construction of these pyramids. Some of them say that it was made by slaves. Others say that it's not a slave, but magic. They even mentioned that they were magic, because imagine, in this period of the history, how can people be able to construct some, okay, some art like this, like pyramids, and okay, and other similar, okay, monuments like temples. It was unthinkable. So Egypt has a long story, a story that is really long. And this story goes back beyond the written word, the story of the gods, the monuments, which have made the culture famous. All these different things together make Egyptian culture famous, meaning that known by everybody, known by, okay, the whole world. All right, now the main question, that can be found here is, what is Egyptian civilization? So if you want to find a good answer for this question, let's say that before there were different cultures. There were different cultures before they have what they call today, or what is known today as Egyptian civilization, because this is important. First of all, in century 6000, community known as Badarian culture, meaning that the community that was close to the Nile River, they began to flourish alongside the Nile River, and they started developing their culture. They started developing industries. This is also evidenced by workshops and different other things discovered at Abydos dating to 5,500 before Christ's era. The same Badarian culture was followed by other cultures such as the Amrachian culture, the Gizan culture, the Nakada culture, also known as Nakada 1, 2, and 3. These different cultures, mainly the Nakada cultures 3, significantly developed what is known today as the Egyptian civilization. So there is a starting point. There is a starting point before we have what is called today as Egyptian civilization, meaning that the written history of Egyptian civilization. Okay, so far there are other elements that are important in this class. Everybody knows that, or almost a lot of people know. They know that, okay, Egyptian way of writing, ancient way of writing is called hieroglyphic script. But ancient people do not have only hieroglyphic script, because in the temple there were other forms of writings, meaning that the hieratic script and the hieroglyphic script are two main writings of ancient Egyptian people. As for the hieroglyphic script, the most known, they are developed in the Nakada 3, meaning that the Nakada that preceded the Egyptian civilization. And remember that hieroglyphic script has been deciphered by Jean-François Champollion. Okay, so we cannot talk about Egyptian civilization without mentioning death. Death is relevant in Egyptian civilization, because they even have a cult for dead people. They have mortuary rites, right? They have mortuary rites. They have a great culture for Egypt. Okay, they have rites, mortuary rites like mummification, so on. And the place where mummification was made is known as Hierakonpolis, which is the town where Egyptian people practice mummification. Meaning that, what is mummification? Mummification is to take, right, chemical products to keep the body, okay, after living the internal organs. All right, so this is mummification. It was a method used to keep the dead, okay, as long as possible. Okay, government. This is the way the Egyptian civilization, the Egyptian government is organized. So dealing with government, we will be talking about different kings and their successors, the different kings and their successors, to know exactly what they did during their lifetimes and what was the main issues of their in their existence. Okay, dealing with government, we can just make a short summary of the government in ancient Egypt. So it is divided into different periods. First of all, we have what is called Old Kingdom. The Old Kingdom is the period of kings and pyramids. The period of kings and pyramids is called the Old Kingdom. The Old Kingdom of Egypt is comprised between 2613 back to 2181. So this is the period of Old Kingdom. So what is essential here about this period is it is a period when a strong centralized government a centralized government, because you can imagine that they were different government, but a strong centralized government headed by an all-powered kings, increasing domestic wealth to the point that large-scale public work like the pyramids of Giza were erected. So this is, okay, these are the essential, okay, elements that we will discuss in this, okay, in this part of this chapter concerning government in ancient Egypt. Here are also other questions that may be important to understand. Who were the first rulers of Egypt? The first ruler, the early rulers. Why is the old kingdom known as the age of pyramid? Why is the old kingdom known as the age of pyramid? This is the starting point of the construction of, okay, pyramids. So far, because there are different details in the lesson, but retain that in this period, the priestly class meaning that the class which is composed of priests were the one that was supposed to lead the prayers in the temple. To become a priest in ancient times was not an easy task. To become a priest, you should learn, you should be an intellectual, what we know today as an intellectual. You should have a lot of skills in different things, right? That is the reason why, okay, that is the reason why becoming a priest at that time was not an easy task, right? So the priestly class, they began in this period. They began meaning that the which period we are still in the period of Old English, Old Kingdom. In this period, the priestly class began to exert more influence within Egypt that grew more and more as the early Old Kingdom diverted enormous resources to the mortuary monuments and complex. What does it mean? It just means that the priestly class was powerful because they were exerting influence. You know that the priestly class are those who receive the present. The present destined to gods, right? Destined to gods in the temple. So the priests are those who are celebrating the prayers. The priests are those who are interpreting the divine mission or the divine will. That is the reason why they played a central role in the governance of ancient Egyptian people. So this is one point. Another is the local administration. Or the monarchs, local administrators instead of administration, or the monarch, because still in the first early kingdoms, in the early government, they were not called pharaoh. Be careful, they were kings, monarchs, but not yet pharaohs. Later they will be called pharaohs, but here they are, okay, the early leaders or the early monarchs was, okay, called kings or monarchs. Administrators, monarchs, they increased their independence. As they were powerful, they increased their independence. Because they have a reason to increase their independence, which further eroded the authority of the central government. Imagine if a portion of the society gain a lot of power, they may be considered as a threat to the central government. That is the reason why they started threatening the central government, meaning that the king himself, he did not want this power, this increasing power of the priestly class. Now he will find a solution to reduce their power. By the way, when a major famine, meaning that when there is no rains, there may be a famine, meaning that there is nothing. Okay, the fields have given nothing, right? People may be hungry. When a major famine finally hit Egypt during the reign of Pepi II, who is another sovereign. The sovereign are those who are ensuring the central governance, right? Okay, Pepi II, who was ensuring the central government, he was enabled to help the entire country. You know that it's like during in the history, maybe I cannot compare it with the COVID-19, but maybe our great parents, for example, the aftermath of the of the First World War and the Second World War, maybe they were famine, right? Nothing to eat. You understand? All right. So when the major famine finally hit Egypt during the reign of Pepi II, the central government was unable to help the entire country because there were not enough, okay, there were enough means to help everybody or to give everybody what he needs. And the rulership fell to individual communities who felt no need to help one another, because when you help others, you will become like them. When you help them, so you will be, maybe you will be weak in the times of famine or times of war. So the goods are very, very important. Okay, so these are the different okay point that we can discuss dealing with the first, okay, the government, meaning that the early government in ancient Egypt. It is also called the dynasty, the early dynasty period, right? The early dynasty period, which is comprised between 301 or 3115 to back to 2000, right? 630. Okay, who were to answer our question, who were the different rulers? First of all, we can name one of them, Manito. Who is Manito? Manito was called King Minis. King Minis. He was a monarch, Manito or Minis, but they call it differently. Some of them say that it's Manito, others say that it's Minis, but the two seem to be the same. Minito and the conquest. all of them was conquerors, because they were warrior kings, right? They were warrior kings. They did many, okay, did many conquests. Manito for some, Minis for others. So this was discovered in the famous palettes of Nerma, which is a stone where it was written, okay, an image of a battle, a victory after a battle. And this victory was King Manito or King Menes victory. The palette, the Nerma palette. All right, dealing with the geographical designation of ancient Egypt, from which we have the Nile River. The Nile River goes from the Upper Egypt to the lower Egypt. The Upper Egypt to the Lower Egypt, and it is close to the Mediterranean Sea. Now we can say that we have Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, and the Mediterranean Sea that are borderlines, or that are fronted to the Nile River. So when you see the map of ancient Egypt, you can see that the Mediterranean Sea is close to the Nile River, right? And it goes from the Upper Egypt to the lower Egypt. Okay, the early dynastic period. While back in our comments, we did talk about the early dynastic period of Egypt. But one of the more relevant, okay, point is or are the mastaba tombs. The mastaba tombs that are the precursor of the later pyramids. The mastaba tomb were small pyramids. Okay, like in the Serif culture, their great parents, they were burying their bodies, their dead bodies, in kind of, okay, matsaba tombs that are different in terms of size from the pyramids we know today, are the three great pyramids that you can find in the Geyser Plateau. Okay, the mastaba tombs was built in the early dynastic period of Egypt. They are the precursor of the later pyramids. Okay, and when we talk about tombs, we will automatically think about the burial practice, as in every culture. Even in our culture, the Senegalese culture, there are different ways in the history of our great parents before the coming of the monotheistic religions. They had their own way. They had a lot of rites of celebrating their deathing ceremonies, right? Okay, so here it is the starting point of the rituals, or the ritual practice, or if you want, the burial practice. So the elaboration of the mummification techniques start being practiced by Egyptian people, mainly in the city of Hierakonpolis. It consists of keeping the dead body, we talked about that a while back, preserving the dead body, by deliberately drying or embalming flesh practiced in the ancient burial ritual. So this is a detail that we have already explained. Mummification. It is called mummification techniques. Okay, so here, this is we can also talk about the different apart king meanings. There are other calling of his name, as we already explained. We can name other things that comes after in the same period after Menes. We can, for instance, we can cite Djoser, King Djoser, who is a king that who reigned in century 2670, 2670 and 2600 before Christ era. Okay, King, what can we say about this king, King Djoser? King Djoser was the founder of the pyramids at Saqqara. What is the founder of pyramid? King Djoser was a king. He was a sovereign. He was not the one who took the stone and put the stone after stone to construct what we know as pyramids. But he was the one that were heading the construction of the pyramids, because he had a physician friend who was known as Imhotep. Imhotep was a physician and architect, and he was able to draw some plan to construct this great monument, or we know as being the pyramids. And among these pyramids, we can cite the three great pyramids that are the pyramids of Khufu. Khufu, who is a sovereign pyramids built under Khufu that bear his own name, right? The Great Pyramid of Khufu. Khufu is the last of the seven wonders, meaning that the last of the seven wonders in ancient world. He was a sovereign, and the pyramid Khufu bear his name, or he was buried in this pyramid. Because remember that pyramids are graves, and at the entrance there is what we call sphinx. What is a sphinx? A sphinx is a statue, how can I say, made that has a human head and a lion body, sometimes with wings. And this sphinx was considered as angels, as guardian that could look after the deceased body. You know that the kings, as the pharaohs, they were great people. Everybody owed them respect. They were leading the country. They were going they were engaging wars, right? They were ensuring the governance of the ancient times. That's the reason why when a king passed away, so there was a different rituals that concerned every citizen at that time. Even with the pharaohs, when a pharaoh was dead, his subject, right, or his servants, they break their necks to accompany, right, the okay, the kings, or so not sorry, the pharaoh in the afterward, because they said that they they should continue, or they must continue to serve the king in the afterlife. In their afterlife, they call it maybe the, how can I say, the field of reeds, based on their religious beliefs, the field of reed. Compare it to what we know, what we believe with the monotheistic religion. We believe in the paradise, but ancient Egyptian people, they had their own paradise. So when somebody passes away and he will cross the death row, and he will be judged by different divinities, and they subordinate, right? And they were headed by Osiris, and then when they see that the one that is deceased is can enter their paradise that they call the field of reeds. So it depends on the, how can I say, on the awakening of the heart of the deceased people. When the heart is okay, is equal to the white fisher, so this one is judged is favorable to enter, can I say, the field of reed. So this is a parenthesis, and I think that we will see, okay, the explanation of in the book of the dead, the book of the dead, meaning that the burial practice of ancient Egyptian people. All right, so we have three different pyramids. The pyramids of Khufu, in reference to King Khufu, Khafre, in reference to King Khafre, and Minkore. In the other language, you have certainly learned les trois grandes pyramides d'Égypte, la pyramide de Khéops, Khéphren, and Mykerinos. Here they are called Khufu, Khafre, and Minkore. Okay, these were the pyramids that follows the small pyramid called Matsaba tombs, constructed during the Old Kingdom of Egypt. Okay, let's move a little bit. I think that some of you may, okay, they may be lost, but anyway, I think that you will follow until the end. All right, so the place of this pyramid, as you can see in this picture, in this beneath picture, right? These are the three great pyramids that are in the necropolis, of the Geyser Plateau. The Geyser Plateau is a site where the pyramids are constructed, where the dead body are exposed, where the dead bodies, are buried. You can see the small pyramids that are around, right? The small pyramids, okay, they are the kind of the Matsaba tombs. Even if you go to Libya, you will find this small pyramid, because both regions, they have some similarities in culture. They have a lot of similarity, not some, they have a lot of similarity in culture, because Egypt used to be, has been led by, in some period of the history, by the Kushite kings. In the lesson, King Piye, the Kushite King Piye, okay, in the lesson is one among many other examples. And even some researchers, they argue that queens like Hatshepsut were black skinned. They have blacks, they had black skin. So these are the purpose. This is not my purpose, but these are the purpose of some researchers, maybe anthropologists or others, or other figures, or other researchers. Okay, here are different periods that are important in the in Egyptian civilization. First of all, the intermediate period. What is the intermediate period and the Hyksos? The intermediate period and the Hyksos. Okay, as we did a while back, we will try to shorten things and try to make a brief summary of these different periods. The intermediate period. Okay. Okay, we can make a brief summary of this period. Okay, I will name it by with the Hyksos and the Amarna period. The Hyksos and the Amarna period, because the Hyksos are or were people that made a settlement during during this period of the history, during the intermediate period, more precisely. So first of all, we can state the definition of this period, the first intermediate period. So there is a second intermediate period, but let's talk about first of all about the first intermediate period. It is a period that saw a decline in power. What is a decline? Meaning that ups and down. So a decline in the power of the central government, meaning that there was a small weakness in the power of central government, and this weakness is followed by its collapse. So what happened in this first intermediate period? It happened that districts were taking their independence. So they were governing themselves. So they were taking their independence. They were taking their independence. They were taking their independence from the central government. That is what bring them to become weak. Together they had a lot of strength. If I can compare it to the what you know as Union Soviétique, URSS, when the URSS was composed of 15 states, they were strong. But since the decline of the Union Soviétique, the decline started from the politic of Mikhail Gorbachev, and then other countries started taking their independence, and they were just small countries led by some governors. Together you are strong, divided you are weak, isn't it? All right. Okay, and in the first intermediate period and the Hyksos, they were like the independent district with their own governor, what we explained a while back, and the city of Hierakonpolis, which is located in the Lower Egypt. There is an Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. In Upper Egypt, and Lower Egypt, but Hierakonpolis, which is the Hierakonpolis, sorry, which is the city of the mummification, which is located in Lower Egypt, and Thebes is in the Upper Egypt. Thebes in Upper Egypt, Hierakonpolis in Lower Egypt. So they were two cities. And they were both centers that found their own dynasty separately. And the governance was separated, right? And both regions were independent. And as they were independent, as they had common interests, they often fight each other to take the supreme control. They were living this situation until a Theban king, meaning that a king coming from Thebes, whose name was Mentuhotep II, who reigned from century 2061 to 2010, defeated the force of the Lower Egypt, meaning that the force of the Hierakonpolis. And this was the first unification of the North and the South. And this unification led to the next step, which is the Middle Kingdom. So let's talk about a little bit about the Middle Kingdom. As a definition, the Middle Kingdom is considered Egyptian Classical Age. Egypt Classical Age. Okay, the Middle Kingdom is considered Egypt Classical Age. In Classical Age, you have the adjective classic, meaning that something that is old, right? Something that date back many years after. But in the Middle Kingdom, or the Middle Age, meaning that the Classical Age, what is important to know here is, after defining this period, which is known as the Classical Age, it is an age when the art and culture reached a great height, and the period when Thebes became the most important and the wealthiest city in the country. As they win the battle, as the king, which king? The king of the king Mentuhotep unified the north and the south, they began increasing their wealth. They begin increasing their wealth. Now they can be called wealthy country, or a wealthy country, after the first unification. So it means that Mentuhotep II, he had a great, as the founder of this period, had greatly influenced his people, and he pushed them to success, or to prosperity, or to gain a lot of opportunities. Now, it is important to know how did the Middle Kingdom differ from the Old Kingdom? How did the Middle Kingdom differ from the Old Kingdom? In the New Kingdom, we have seen that things are getting better. There is a unification, and there is other important means that start being taking place. That is the reason why one thinker whose name is Galen, Ox and Galen thinkers. They are two historians. Ox and Galen. They, in this quotation, they said the 12 dynasty kings were strong rulers who established control not only over the world Egypt, but also over Libya and the south. So the influence was, we can guess that the influence was very, very wide, where several fortresses were built to protect Egyptian trading interests. So this is the interest of unifying different regions. So they gain more power, right? They can look after their after the countries, meaning that by protecting the border lines, for protecting their frontiers, and so forth. Now we can see that Egypt has become a great and a strong kingdom after the first unification. What were the similarities in how rulers come into power? We have two different periods. They have similarity. There are similarities and difference. Definitely, the similarities and difference, meaning that they have something in common, and they have other different other things that they that is different, or that are different. What social and economic changes occurred during the first intermediate period? These are key questions. How did the first intermediate period impact how Middle Kingdom rulers run their governments? So these are different questions that already have the answers in these two chapters. We can discuss some of them. During the Old Kingdom, all the wealth and power followed to and from the kings. The kings ran the military and collected the taxes. As a normal governor, he ran the military services and collect the taxes. Kings were also viewed as earthly deities, because I said that the kings was the direct representative of the gods, or the intermediate of the gods in earth. Gods are in the, how can I say, in the abstract, but the kings are human beings that represent the gods, which enhance their power. This is what enhanced their power. While, or with all the wealth of the kings, they commissioned massive public work. They could lead massive public work, meaning that constructing pyramids, constructing temples, constructing, how can I say, other ways, constructing homes, and so on. Among these constructions, the most relevant or the most famous are the pyramids of the Giza Plateau. Another explanation here is, due to the expenditure and upkeep of the public works through the Old Kingdom, the priestly class, the monarch in the wealth and the powers until independent region rule took over the fallen centralized government. This is what is given us a comments of these two parts that we have already okay discussed. Similarly, we can say also similarly to the formation of, meaning that the creation of the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom began with the military conquest. The military conquest, that's what brings about okay the independence of the other side, meaning that Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, until the unification, which is led by which is led by Mentortep. Okay, the Middle Kingdom. So return that or copy that in the middle, or dealing with the Middle Kingdom. There are different temples that have been constructed. For example, the temple of Karnak, the temple of Karnak, the temple of Luxor, Karnak, and then now there are other people that need to be okay introduced in these explanations. The Hyksos. Who were the Hyksos people? How they gain power? After the settlement around the Nile River. The Hyksos people. Hyksos people. They were strangers. They were strangers. First of all, we can say that they have Semitic origin, meaning that okay, they come from other parts, like in Syria. They are partly Jews and they have Semitic origin. And they fill a key position with Egypt in the administration. They fill key position in Egypt. They come, they make their settlements, they started developing their culture. They even okay integrate Egyptian culture. And they were not welcomed by Egyptian people. That's the reason why they were trying to fight them. They were trying to drive them out of their land. Okay, return that. The Hyksos people, they wanted to legitimate their rule. They settled in the Lower Egypt and they wanted to legitimate their rule. And then they even adopted Egyptian culture, Egyptian custom, and they were dressing like Egyptian people. They were also worshipping the same God as Egyptian people, because they identified their gods with the Egyptian people. Their gods were known as enotheism. They were practicing enotheism, and they recognized themselves through the Egyptian gods. They were making trade exchange with the local governors of the city and town of Lower Egypt. They used to make treaties, even treaties between them. Local governors and the Hyksos. They even made treaties, peace treaties. Après la guerre, donc c'est après l'orage, c'est le beau temps. Voila. They were making even treaties, the local government was making treaties with the Hyksos people. They enjoyed profitable trade, and even Thebes, which is located in Upper Egypt, Thebes, had a cordial and seemingly profitable relationship with them. So they were fully integrated in Egyptian, okay, in Egyptian um, region. Sorry. We can also say that at the same time, the Hyksos, they were gaining power in the north. They begin threatening Egyptian people. They were gaining power. They were gaining power in the northern Asia, as well as the Nubian people. The Nubian people were doing so to the south. The Hyksos were gaining power to the north, and the Nubian in the other side, they were doing the same to the south, right? Okay. To sum up, the Hyksos were vilified by the new kingdom, scribes to justify their wars of conquest, and a new version of story was created in which the foreign invaders destroyed the temple of the god, slaughtering, meaning that, okay, slaughtering, meaning that killing the innocent and raising cities in a barbaric lust for the conquest. Until Amosi I and those who follow him wanted to make sure no foreign people would ever be able to gain such power in their land again. So there was a resistance, and they ensured that no one will dare, okay, invade Egypt again in the future. Thanks to Amosi, the sovereign Amosi I. They also united Egypt as never before through the depiction by New Kingdom, scribed as bloodthirsty conquerors. The scribe, they were also conquerors, because we have learned that the scribe, as the priestly class, they were conquerors. They were running after power. The priestly class were gaining more and more power, as described, because all of them, they are great mind. All of them are leaders in their specific, okay, subject matters. Okay, during that period, we can also name important figures in the Amarna period, important figures in the period known as the Amarna. Among them, Akhenaten and Nefertari. Akhenaten and Nefertiti, because Nefertari is the wife of Ramses II. Akhenaten is the sovereign that unified Egyptian people around, okay, the belief of one divinity. The monotheistic religions in Egypt start with Pharaoh Akhenaten. At this moment, they were called Pharaoh. They start being called Pharaohs. Akhenaten, his wife name was Nefertiti. Okay, among Akhenaten accomplishment, there is among his accomplishment, first of all, is the unification around one god, right? The sun disk, the sun disk. This is one among his different accomplishments. Okay, other figures such as feminine figures are discovered in this this lesson, namely Queen Hatshepsut. Queen Hatshepsut was the first queen to lead Egypt. And the paradoxically, only man was seen worthy to lead, but she was a first woman to lead a powerful country. Imagine in a place where only men are judged worth to become leaders, a first woman come to lead the country. But she did it with great, and I say with great recognition, because he developed the trade mainly with countries like Punt, but she did not. She was not fond of wars, right? She were rather interested in trade with the other countries, like the land of Punt, right? The land of Punt. Hatshepsut was followed by his followers. His follower did not want to keep the memory of Hatshepsut for one reason, because just because Hatshepsut was a woman and he was a man judged worthy to lead what we can to lead a country. Okay, the following elements are the architectures, the Abu Simbel, which is a temple in the memory of Ramses, wife, Abu Simbel. Abu Simbel was constructed by Ramesses the third. Okay, and Thutmose the first, yes, Queen Hatshepsut were the first woman to lead Egypt, and during that period, there were other important discoveries, meaning that treatment of kind of disease. Even there was a document about gynecology. A papyrus dealing with a papyrus is a paper in which we could write something. So in this papyrus, it was written the different contraceptive method at that time. So women at that time, they could practice, they could space their birth. So the medicine was developed, and as well as they could heal more than 200. They had more than 200 treatment of different diseases that are not linked to the will of God's will, but scientifically could be treated and eradicated. So these were different periods that has marked these different trends, different accomplishments that have marked this period. Okay, it's Pharaoh Amenhotep the fourth, who later became Akhenaten, meaning that the living spirit of Athens, and unified, and he cut the link with the with other gods and returned to the origin, meaning that the starting point, right? The spirit of Athens. They were worshiping he was worshiping the sun disk. Voila. Okay, so they had just one to follow one god instead of being a polytheist sovereign. And there was a resistance made by other, made by the priestly class, meaning that the priest of the Amon priest, because Akhenaton himself, he was aware that the priestly class was gaining power. This is what was threatening his existence. So at the same time, by doing that, by reducing the number of gods into a unique god, it is a way, or it was a way to reduce the power of the priestly class. So this was also, the accomplishment of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, mostly known by Akhenaton. Okay, another part, another aspect of another subtitle is also important: the decline of Egypt and the coming of Alexander the Great. Who was Alexander the Great? What were the decline of Egypt? Or when exactly started the decline of Egypt? Ramesses III, he was followed by his policies, meaning that his way to his governance. Ramesses III was a conqueror, who was also the king that had a long lifetime. Look at here, 1186 to 1155. Ramesses III, he gathered a lot of wealth, and this wealth created the attraction of the sea people. The sea people was the Hyksos, the sea people, the people that come from the sea. Now, seafarers. They were wanderers and seafarers, the Hyksos. They are of unknown origin. Now, Ramses II had defeated them in the battle, in this early battle. Merenta, after Merenta's death, there is another battle, which is a battle that Sekit Kadesh, which was under the Egyptian control and ravaging the coast. So that is to say, Ramesses III for the Hyksos out of the land. He finally defeated them, definitely, right? He definitely defeated them. All right. So after the reign of Ramesses III, Tutankhamun, who is a later ruler, Tutankhamun, he restored the old religion. You can see that here, when a sovereign, find a way, the way of governance, his own way of governance, another sovereign that will come after may change drastically the way of governing. Look at here in this example, Tutankhamun restored the old religion. What is said about his predecessor, Akhenaton? Akhenaton unified. He divorced it with the other gods. He unified Egypt under one faith, meaning that the cult of Amun. But here, his son Tutankhamun, he restored the old religion of Amun. So he did the contrary of his late father. So the priests of Ammon had a quite large tract of land. They amassed great wealth, which now threatened the central government and disrupted the city, and disrupted the unity of the city. So this is the revolt of the priestly class we explained a while back. Okay, at the end of the 20th dynasty, the Egyptian government became weak. That's what led to the collapse. Egyptian government became weak in the third intermediate period. The third intermediate period, from which we can name King Pie, the King Pie, King Pie, who is a who is the king that reigned from 752 to 722 before Christ's era. This is the second unification of Egypt by King Pie. The first one, this is the second unification of Egypt. But what comes next? Egypt is unified again, but there are other threats because Egypt was really attractive. That's the reason why they could not stay a long period without facing other difficulties. So this period is the period of the other invasion, after the invasion of the Hyksos, after the invasion of the Hyksos. So this is the invasion of other people, such as the Assyrian people under Esarhaddon. The Assyrian people under Esarhaddon, they begin their invasion to Egypt. They wanted to conquer Egypt. But by 666 before Christ's era, under his successor, the successor of Esarhaddon, whose name is Ashurbanipal, the conquest of 666 was done by Ashurbanipal, who is the successor of ANG-UNCHK. They are all Assyrian people. And then after that, after the exit of the Assyrian people, there were other invaders like called the Cambyses, the Persian invasion, led by Cambyses II. So what was made this invasion, or how was made, sorry, this invasion? As the Persian people, they knew that Egyptian people, they were fanatics. So they had a lot of gods represented by animals. What did they do? They drove cats. They gathered a lot of cats directed to the towns, and then when Egyptian people saw the cats, okay, the cats that represent, how can I say, a divinity in Egyptian beliefs, okay, they believe that it was a sign of the gods. That is the reason why they did not organize their defense. This mess, okay, helped the Persian people to invade Egypt. The painting of cats ordered, okay, the Persian people to invade Egypt because the cat is represented by a divinity in ancient Egyptian, okay, beliefs. All right. That's the reason why the Egyptian forces, they surrendered. They did not resist, they surrendered because they thought that it was a sign of gods. Now, the Persian will remain then will remain in this will remain in Egypt until the coming of Alexander the Great in 332. Now, so Alexander the Great, que vous connaissez comme étant Alexandre le Grand, Alexander the Great from Macedonie, qui est venu de la Macédonie, invaded Egypt to liberate the country from the former invaders, meaning that the Persian people led by Cambyses. So he liberated or he invaded Egypt without a fight. He conquered the country without a fight because they saw him as a liberator, somebody who liberated them from the occupation of the Persian people. And then, as he was seen as a liberator, as a hero, so he established his own city, the city of Alexandria. Presently, if you go down Egypt, there is the city of Alexandria. And there is even the library of Alexandria that caught fire during a battle that opposed the Roman forces to the Egyptian forces and in the Ptolemaic, in the last of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Sheikh Anta Diop was talking about this library. That library was full of documents in science, technology, and everything. So if this library did not caught fire, maybe we will be able to discover other accomplishment of these people, of these people, of these erudite people, of these people of great minds. So unfortunately, this library caught fire, the library of Alexandria. Now, Alexander the Great, okay, was found dead after liberating Egypt and following his conquest in the other sides. So he found death. But his general, the general Ptolemy the First Sober, brought his body back to Alexandria, and he was buried in Alexandria. Ptolemy the First Sober is the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the famous Ptolemaic dynasty. Ptolemy Sober was the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty. And as it is a dynasty, meaning that there will be a succession of sovereigns, now we can see that Egypt is being ruled by foreign people like the Macedonian people that came with Alexander the Liberator, Alexander the Great. And after his death, Ptolemy Sober, General Ptolemy, he was the general of the army of Alexander the Great, General Ptolemy Sober, he continued the project of his predecessor. Now, the Ptolemaic dynasty. Let's talk about the Ptolemaic dynasty. One of the different sovereign of the Ptolemaic dynasty, whose name is Cleopatra VII, committed a suicide. Cleopatra VII committed a suicide in 13 BCE. Why he committed a suicide? Because of a defeat against the army of Mark Antony, who is a Roman, the army of Octavian Caesar, who is a Roman conqueror or a Roman general. This happened at the Battle of Actium. I think that it is the same battle that the Library of Alexandria caught fire in this. Right? He could not. Okay. He was not aware of this defeat, So he was really, really, okay, shocked by the defeat. As a woman, he, okay, she committed a suicide. Cleopatra the Seventh. Okay, the Ptolemaic dynasty that comes with the Macedonian people, with the people of Alexander the Great, and followed by General Ptolemy. And now you can see that the Roman people, they came also, as the Roman people was conquered, they conquered a lot of lands around the world until Palestine. They were everywhere because Rome was so powerful. They were represented everywhere and they were collecting taxes, so and so forth. So they were a great nation. And the last last invaders after the Roman was the Arab Muslims. The Arab Muslim. That is the reason why presently, if you go down Egypt, you will see a lot of people speaking Arab. They are not speaking Egyptian. They are not no longer writing hieroglyphics. They are speaking Arab. The last invader, whose name was Caliph Omar, you know that the Arab, they have Caliph Caliph Umar, as a caliph that defeated the Christian in Constantinople. Caliph Umar, but the one that defeated people in Constantinople was Turkish, right? During the Ottoman Empire. But here, Caliph Omar, as a Arab, came in 646 century and fell under Islamic rule. So Egypt was under Islamic rule after the invasion of Caliph Umar in 646. Okay, now to sum up, Egypt have been invaded by different people. First of all, the sorry, let me move a little bit. Okay, first of all, the Assyrian people. Second, the Persian people. Third, the Macedonian people that was liberator. And then the Roman people. And at last, the Arab people that imposed the Islamic rule. That is the reason why now when you go to Egypt, there are a lot of Muslims in the country, but they're still keeping the memory of the history. That is the reason why when you go there, you will find the necropolis. You will find other relics, other remaining stone that date back to the history. So, what is the interest of this lesson in the modern days? The interest of this glorious past in the modern days. So, what is the impact of Egypt, ancient Egypt mainly, more precisely, in the present day? Dear student, all right, the glory of Egypt's past, however, was discovered during the 18th century, meaning that les années 1700, and the 19th century, les années 1800. It has a profound impact of the present day. So what is this impact, or what are these impacts? the historian, I mean, because the historians are those who are dealing with issues like Egypt, the historian or the anthropologists like CMP12S1-ANG-Civilisation Théophile Obenga, and so on. All right, the anthropologists, Egyptologists, scientific, who is a Senegalese scholar, Cheikh Anta Diop, who was born he was born in 1923 and was dead in 1986. He studied the human race, origin, and pre-colonial African culture. Studied the human race, origin, and pre-colonial culture. Cheikh Anta Diop works are said to considerably mark or can I say underline the general history of Africa in 1971, from which he retell the origin of the ancient Egyptian people, because what was told, according to him, was a fake history. So the rewriting or the remaking of the true history, and in this I will just underline, he himself, he said that after, black people, Egyptian people, ancient Egypt were led by black people. He did not do it at random. To defend his thesis about ancient Egyptian people as black people, ancient Egyptian as black people, he referred to science, he referred to mathematics, he referred to anthropological studies to show a lot of evidence of the blackness of ancient Egyptian people. Even there is a conference he did in Cairo, the conference in Cairo, where a lot of different thinkers, different great minds around the world were discussing about Cheikh Anta Diop's purpose, Cheikh Anta Diop's thesis, which is ancient Egyptian people were black people. But he had enough proof, enough example, enough means to prove that they were black people scientifically. He did a scientific analysis because he was not only a historian but a scientist, a scientific, and he is the creator of the carbon. I think that everybody knows that what is the carbon 14. So he did his analysis through ancient arts, mummies, and the melanin level. The melanin is what makes us black people, right? Melanin. We are black because we have a lot of melanin in our skin. Melanin is a substance, right, that exists in the skin of most of African people. But there are African people that are red-skinned, like how can I say, like the Pula and others, but retain that the melanin is the substance that make us black. When we are under the sun with the contact, this substance is activated on the contact of the sun. Okay, Sheikh Anta Diop is a important figure. He was even named after the last pharaoh. It is not because he was a pharaoh, he was not a pharaoh, but he did a lot of research in ancient Egyptian people. There are different documents talking about Egypt. Even in his thesis or in his other novel, Antériorité de la civilisation noire, Nation et culture. So he took reference from Egypt, ancient Egypt. So that is the reason why others calls him as being the last pharaoh because of his his different research on Egyptian civilization. And he said that the ancient Egyptian people were Negro. It's not my word, but the words of Sheikh Anta Diop. The moral fruit of their civilization was to be counted among the assets of black world, meaning that we will no longer accept that black people did not participate in the history, in the construction of the world. All these theories, when we focus on Sheikh Anta Diop results, research, and outcomes, so we can think that black people or the African continent played a great role in the history. So it has to be counted among the assets of the black world. That is the reason why our course, Egypt and Libya, is in African civilization, because what we learn here have to be counted in the assets of the black world. Okay, the remaining details are just some claims made by others about Osiris, and Jesus Christ in the Holy Bible. Histories are similar. Jesus Christ was sentenced to death, and he made what we know as the resurrection, as well as Osiris was the Redeemer God, meaning that the God that come from death. Okay, so both of them have similar history in some way, mainly the death and the sacrifice for his own people. Osiris, sacrificed himself for his people to become the judge of the underworld. Jesus Christ did the sacrifice for the salvation of humankind. Thank you, dear student. I think that you have learned a lot of things from this lecture, and we will continue with the other chapters, namely the chapter 2 and the chapter 3. And I want you to read carefully the chapters and try to identify or to ask more questions during your tutorial session with your other tutors about the details, so that you will be skilled enough, to deal with Egyptian issues, generally speaking, Egyptian issues and the different periods, and be accustomed with the timeline. So thank you guys, and have a nice day. Thank you.